Kai, thanks for joining us today. It's Deborah with Adelaide Capital, and today I'm talking to Kai Hoffman, who's a friend of mine, but also runs, I guess, somewhat of a competitive yet friendly investor relations firm called Soar Financials. So hi, Kai, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Deb, great to talk to you.
So I've noticed that you've been also very active on social media during this whole pandemic.
No, exactly. We've been using Twitter quite actively lately because we've seen over the course of the last 18 months, not just during the pandemic since March, we've seen that there's a very active community discussing mining stocks.
Yeah, that's interesting. We've always kind of equally focused on a number of different ones, but I would say that YouTube's our primary focus right now. I guess that leads into my other question. What do you think is here to stay, and what do you think is just for COVID and goes away in terms of what we do, like marketing, road shows? What's going to stay virtual and what will not?
Well, it's a capacity thing for like, I'm looking at SF Live right now as a format. It will be tough to keep it alive post-COVID once we start traveling again. I'm sure this will run for another 6 months easily, right? Mm-hmm. But after we start traveling again regularly, I know I'm going on a site visit in 2 weeks here in BC. So I'm super excited about that. But that's 2 days where I'm on the road where I'm not broadcasting, right? So that's going to slow down. So content is going to be reduced again in general. Like, it's not just going to be me traveling, but I know the others that are really active on Twitter, some other newsletter writers that are doing great work on Twitter and YouTube right now. That's going to reduce the content again. Right? Companies are going to travel again. We'll see more conference website or conference webinars, more or less, like presentations pop up. We haven't seen anything from the World Gold Forum. I'm curious to see what the Precious Metals Summit is doing. So we'll get more content in that regard, more just presentation content. Webinars will be reduced. We right now actually have investors telling me, Kai, I can't even listen in. It's like, there's too many, right? Like, I'm being bombarded daily with invitations to webinars. Right. Yeah. So, and that's the other thing, like, we wanted to talk about is sort of manage expectations from companies. Like, what kind of feedback do they expect from a webinar? Like, how many people do they expect to dial in, or even on a Twitter post? And that's really key because our industry is still very, very small. And unless you start talking about gold, Bitcoin, pot, and esports in one post, you won't get more than 10, 15, or I don't know, it's like engagements. Right? Or views is going to be different numbers. Like, I'm personally really, really happy with 150 views of my YouTube videos because I know they're genuine and I haven't thrown any money at it. Right? Because one metric that is important to me is like, how long have investors watched the video? And as long as that metric works and it's not in the seconds, like, I know they're interested. Right? Yeah. So that's key for me. And that's going to stay. It means the metrics. We're going to, and I said that off record before, I really like the Zoom, the GoToMeetings format to talk to companies. Like, we often got pitched over the phone before where we had to flip through the deck manually because people weren't willing to use Zoom or GoToMeeting or something before as well. I'm not going to accept a single call anymore unless they use either GoToMeeting that we have or they provide a Zoom link or something, right? Because it turns into a waste of time if I can't see people.
Yeah, I still like phone calls. But I also don't like doing my hair and makeup.
No, I'm getting a haircut on Friday. That's the other thing. Site visit in 2 weeks, haircut in a couple of days. Like, life is trending up again. So,
can you tell us who you're going to see?
West Haven.
Oh, okay. I don't know them.
No, that's 2 hours away from here, 2.5 hours. So, it's an easy trip, but I'm excited to get out of the house for a night.
Well, I'm sure that'll be a good trip. So one thing that we haven't talked about, because I agree with you, certain things are here to stay and certain things will somewhat go back to normal. From my perspective, we're going to continue to do webinars. We're going to continue to do CEO interviews, live Q&A, like post press release, like we were both talking about, explaining things with the CEO that might be a bit more complicated than just reading in a press release. I think those things are here to stay. Virtual roadshows, I think, to a certain extent will as well. I still envision doing a roadshow to Vancouver for each of my companies once a year, not 3 times a year. I think you can see people face-to-face much less. But I think it makes sense. I think our industry was doing way too much engagement that was unnecessary and costly. Conferences probably start to go back to normal in the fall. hopefully yours still happens. You've rescheduled it, right?
We rescheduled to November, but in conversations, it's going to be either a really, really weird one where half the people attend virtually and half the people are going to be sitting in a room with empty chairs between them, or we're just, I don't know, we haven't really decided yet. So we're still watching what's happening, right? And it's more the travel aspect, and are people willing to sit in a room with people that just got out of a mental tube?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we're not planning on having ours in September. We'll probably just defer for a year, do it virtually or something. I'm not sure. We've been doing a lot of virtual mini conferences, but I think that space is going to get saturated too. So it's just really about finding something that people aren't doing.
Yeah, try to put a certain spin on it that keeps it fresh and new. And we're actually going to try a mini conference July 8th, just 3 hours in the morning, like more geared towards Europe, actually, to European investors. And to have our clients present first. It's the first time we're doing it, so using our clients as guinea pigs for it before we roll this out, maybe open it up to other companies that we don't work on a daily basis with, and just see how it goes and figure out the technology as well, right? So how to get people on there, because that's still a big hurdle for many groups out there watching webinars, and I consume a lot of YouTube content, make sure to see if anybody's doing something differently that I can learn from. And it's still puzzling. Like even taking one-on-one meetings at the conferences, people have a hard time just setting up properly, right? It's what I would call it a pet peeve, but like I put a bit of effort into this whole setup and everything, and then I see a CEO leaning back away from the microphone, sitting like this in a conference, right, talking like this while he's on camera and presenting. It's like, come on, like a little effort, right? And I'm hoping that stays.
Yeah.
Right? Like people actually learn how to use a microphone or something, like, or how to adjust it properly. Stuff like that, no, small stuff that I can get. I'm maybe a bit of a perfectionist, but it might help, right?
Yeah, we give little like crib notes on how to set yourself up and how to set up a little home studio, but they're often overlooked. And at that point, you're like trying to help, but some people
it's too late when they come on an SF Live and you try to do the onboarding 10 minutes beforehand. Like that ship has sailed. You got to work with what you get, right? So if the CEO doesn't put any effort into using maybe a headset or something, or maybe closing the blinds behind him, then it's just like, but it shows a bit like the attention to detail. Like we've been trying to get a couple companies on SF Live. They said, how does it work? How are we going to do it? This is not for me. Like, well, it's not that difficult, okay? We use Skype for our conferences because it plugs directly into our software. We use a headset, and that's pretty much it, okay? That's the bare minimum, right? You don't have to go get the full setup and stuff like that. But show a little interest, right? Show a little, because it tells me, and the one thing is, like, while I'm on this rant here, I watched all the presentations at the World Gold Forum. I went through all of them. I was procrastinating on something else. So I clicked through all the single presentations just to see who was doing what and how. And one company took the cake by just playing a quarterly conference call as their presentation with scrappy 8-bit phone audio. Okay. No page, like barely any page flips, no video. And I was like, I'm actually feeling insulted. I'm still insulted thinking about it. Like, because you expect me to listen to this. Okay, it's 2020. The sound could sound like you're sitting right next to me with a little effort, and you could actually have video, and it would have cost you less than $500 to produce it. And it probably would have included the cost of the microphone. Okay, so
that's hilarious. I don't know why your story just reminded me. I totally forgot about this. Do you remember? I think it would have been like 7-ish years ago when there was a big trend of people that would like essentially bomb conference calls, like drop in and say crazy things. I think that was like the precursor to the Zoom bombing.
No, I haven't. No, I missed that, unfortunately.
Maybe it was longer ago than that, like maybe 10 years. And I remember there's one guy that used to go on conference calls and pretend to be Superman. I don't know why, but yeah, you could get the transcripts. They're wild. But I guess that guy now just Zoom bombs.
No, now you can just mute people easily. You see who it is and just like done.
Yeah. No. But I do hope that you have your conference. Selfishly, I've never been to Germany, even though I am German, like yourself, but not quite.
Oh yeah, you're always invited to come out. So we had that deal already, long time in place. So.
Yeah, well, it'll be fun. I will subject myself to a 7-hour ride in a coronavirus to get there. But if you do it virtually, I'll also attend. But yeah, let's talk about Europe, because that's a market that we don't have a ton of relationships in. In fact, I usually just refer my mining clients to you to do roadshows. So how are the European markets different in terms of investors, and how is it different in this virtual environment than what you've seen in North America?
Good question, actually, because Europe is quite different from North America as well. And Europe is not the UK. UK is more like Toronto, I'd say, right? Because you have more institutions there. But Germany is a pure retail market. Like I can probably name 5 funds in Germany that invest in junior mining or in mining in general, right? That have a resource focus. And so Germany is a pure retail market, so you have to approach it completely different. While in the US or North America, retail is an add-on to the institutional side. Europe is purely retail. And I'm talking about the German-speaking parts. Even in Switzerland, the institutions for me are actually family offices and closed-end family funds. So it's a bit different universe. And you got the asset managers in Switzerland that are, for me, institutions, right? And often it's like a Julius Baer sort of coming on for financing or something. That's just one person that actually went through their private banker to get access. It's not a fund from Julius Baer that's investing. Right. So that's very different. That's why we have an approach that we often reach out to newsletter writers to get the most coverage for our clients as well. Right. So we put them in front of retail investors, but for us, retail investors can also be high net worth investors. And we try to reach out to all the different funds that we know, 5 probably in Germany. Right. And they have very high restrictions on who they can invest in. So unless you come up with a $2-3 billion market cap company, the funds are not really interested. And oftentimes liquidity is another issue. So you really got to resort to the family offices, the private wealth managers, and the asset managers in Germany. And those are tough to get to. Germany is a big country. We have 80 million inhabitants, but I think only 5% actually own stocks. Right. So our stock ownership quote is really, really low because we don't have to substitute our retirement income with stocks at this point. Like it's a nice add-on and bonus, but a lot of people are just secured enough by what the government gives them when they retire. Right. So we don't have the 401k plans that you put in company stocks and stuff like that you have in the US or what is it, TRS? What were the Canadian ones? The tax savings accounts, TSA accounts?
Free savings and the RRs.
That one, TSFA, right? We don't have that in Germany, right? Our system is different to save money for retirement. And often we used to just put it in the bank account. We got 5% a year and everybody was happy, right? So that's why our stock ownership quote is really, really low. And in comparison. So we don't have 80 million potential investors. It's more 80 million, 5% of that. And then you can subtract the number of people that are actually interested in junior mining. So it's actually a fairly small number.
So how does a company access the German markets other than hiring Soar Financial?
No, it's like a lot of companies throw a lot of money at promotion. Like in promotion, I mean booking newsletters, like paying for newsletters, but also paying for ad space on certain websites, which is all fine, I guess. But it's a little more, it's a shotgun approach and it's quite expensive, right? Like we at Soar Financial is way more targeted. We know who our investors are, who we can take them to. And also the newsletter writers, you don't have to pay for to get coverage. Those are the more credible ones that you want to cover you anyway, right? Some of them are worth flying out for just for one meeting sometimes. If they start covering you, that's all worth it, right? And you don't have to pay $200,000 or something for a 2-week marketing program just to get the Christmas tree chart, right? And that's not what we stand for, and I hope that comes across that way.
Yeah, well, that's why we get along.
No, I think our ideals align quite well. So
yeah, not a total sellout yet.
We don't have to be. Everything's like the boat, the tide is lifting all boats right now. Even the deals we're working on are up, right? So yeah. we don't have to sell out right now. That was more of a problem of 2015.
I was going to say March.
Yeah, March 18th around there. Like, yeah.
No, but I think you have around there, sell at time. I think, if you pick well and you pick good companies, and for me, I always talk about management. Like, it's so important to have good management, but also in what we do when we work with management teams on an ongoing basis, sometimes for years, you have to get along really well too. And there has to be respect and trust and a likability factor that, investors don't need to have as much of that. Like, you could dislike a management team and Invest, as you and Mark talked about.
No,
recently.
exactly.
Yeah. But as IR, I could never, ever work with a management team I didn't like. It's just not possible.
No, it's like you get ulcers. Like you wake up in the morning, you see an email from that person who's like, oh, not again. Like you're just not interested, right? Like you're putting less effort into it. It's just not worth it. And you and I are both self-employed. Like why do that to us, to ourselves, right? Like why?
Yeah. Well, at this stage, it's like I don't want to surround myself with people that I don't like and don't get along with. And usually there is a correlation between the people that I like, the people that I trust, and their ability to do their job really well. So I have been lucky to work with a lot of great CEOs, and I look forward to working with a lot more. And I know you and I kind of have the same outlook when it comes to how you're going to promote. I hate using that word, but how you're going to talk about and market a company. That's probably why we get along as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I just took on a client that I've never met before. We only had Skype calls and video calls. So I usually always meet my clients and look them in the eye. We break bread and have a beer or something together. And this is the first one I've taken on because of this Corona thing that I haven't met in person yet. So fingers crossed, I hope it works out, right? But because you're missing that personal touch over these Zoom calls. Like we know each other, so it works quite well. Or like most of the CEOs I've interviewed in SF Live, I know really well. That's why you have that personal connection. Yeah. But like somebody you haven't met before, and in that case, it was somebody I haven't met before previously on another instance. And so it was interesting to go through that process and not having that personal feedback, right? That direct feedback.
Yeah. Well, good for you. It's hard to land clients in this environment. So
it is. Yeah. So.
But I guess we should wrap it up there. I would say thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me about what you're seeing in the market that's different and what's different in Europe. And I look forward to working on your conference with you at some point. And I like the SF Live format. I'll continue to watch those. And your podcast with Mark are always entertaining. So I'll give you an opportunity to give a shout out of your Twitter handle and your YouTube channel, which are...
Oh, cool. No, sorry. I was just waiting for you to figure. I thought there was more coming.
That was it.
Because I have the tendency to jump into sentences and talk over people. So
I'm used to that. I'm a female on Bay Street.
Okay. No, it's at Soar Financial is our Twitter handle. So make sure you follow us there. That's where we go live with all our content before we eventually upload it to YouTube. That's more me being busy in the morning than anything else. Sometimes it's up within 30 minutes. Sometimes it takes 2-3 hours. So make sure you go to Twitter at Soar Financial. YouTube is youtube.com/Soar Financial as well. Same on Facebook. I think we're on Instagram. The same. It's at the Instagram.com/Soar Financial. If you guys watch this and are active on Instagram, show me that it works. Follow us there. I'll see it immediately because we don't have a lot of followers there, so that's easy. Other than that, yeah, no, Deb, thanks for having me on. Like, thanks for interviewing me. It's great to talk to you. You guys are doing a great job there at Adelaide as well. And
yeah, it's good to talk to you. It's been a while since I've seen you, so I look forward to seeing you hopefully at some point this summer. And yeah, I'll chat with you again soon. Thanks a lot for taking the time.
Thanks, Deb. Appreciate it.
Bye.